Alright, what's going on, guys? So, for those of you unaware, Cold War Zombies has completely expanded its skill tree system through the use of flawless and refined crystals. These are very rare top-tier items that require a pretty significant grind to get, and to upgrade all of your perks and even your weapon classes, you need quite a few of these. It's about 135 flawless crystals to fully upgrade everything across the board. So, in today's video, I'm going to show you guys a couple methods of getting crystals really quickly so that you can farm them, and depending on how many you need or how quickly you want to get them, there's different methods to acquire them. That being said, if you guys enjoy the video at any point, drop a thumbs up, and if you are new to the channel, remember to subscribe, as we are on the road to 500,000 at this point, and the support has been absolutely on fire as of late. So big shout out to every single one of you guys who have joined the community recently. And so with that being said, let's get into these fastest farming methods for getting refined and flawless crystals. So the methods for acquiring them quickly in Outbreak is a little bit more complicated, so we're going to start with another method you can acquire them by, and this is just by simply playing high rounds in the round-based traditional zombies maps like D Machine. So the question here becomes, what is the fastest method for farming these crystals, and how far should you go in any given game before exfilling and getting, even a bigger bonus of crystals? Now, even if you're just going after the straight up raw Ethereum crystals, if you're just beginning in Cold War Zombies, as a lot of new players have been joining recently, and you're starting at the bottom of your skill tree, I'm going to explain how high rounds in the crystal earning system works. So currently, the balancing is the completion of round 10 in a traditional round-based mode will give you 1 raw Ethereum crystal. However, you're not going to get anything if your skill tree is already completely upgraded and you have no use for raw crystals anymore. On the completion of round 15, you will get 1 raw plus 1 refined crystal. With the completion of round 20, you're going to receive 1 raw, 1 refined, and 1 flawless. The reason this is important specifically is there are modes in Cold War Zombies that only play to round 20 and then you exfil. So in public matches, either on D Machine or Firebase C, they automatically exfil at round 20, meaning you will still be able to get crystals and all of the ones you need this way. If you're not confident enough in your skills to, maybe play solo or do something a little bit more challenging, like even higher rounds, but either way, there are methods to acquire them no matter your skill level. After that, round 25 is going to give you 1 of each crystal, and round 30 will give you 2 raw crystals, 1 refined and 1 flawless. So going to round 30 versus 25 is really only useful if you are still going after the initial skill tree and you need a lot of raw crystals to begin with. Now, it appears after round 30 that this is the cycle that just repeats itself. Unfortunately, it's not exponential, so if going to round 100 does not give you like 5 flawless crystals for doing that round and completing that milestone, but exfilling will also give you an additional bonus, so it is worth doing even if you're playing traditional round-based zombies at the end of your game instead of just like dying or ending it straight out. Successfully exfilling will give you an additional bonus of 2 raw crystals, 2 refined, and 1 extra flawless. Now, if you're a relatively new player to Cold War Zombies and you're getting through the skill tree and still need a lot of raw crystals as well as refined and flawless, then I am going to recommend, just doing some regular round-based zombies and successfully exfilling to keep all of those. But if you're just working on the higher tier skill trees now, I really don't think that just playing high rounds is the most efficient way to get them. Unless Outbreak just really isn't your thing, then I am going to strongly recommend playing it. Remember what I mentioned earlier, where traditional round-based modes kind of cap out in terms of the time you put into a game and how many crystals you're going to be earning for that time, and it definitely flattens off and you get almost diminishing returns as the rounds begin to take longer and longer. However, Outbreak, on the other hand, is kind of the opposite case, where there is an exponential curve in terms of what you're going to earn. In the beginning, Outbreak is going to feel like you are earning crystals slower in the initial term, but in the long run, you're going to be earning the rare ones a lot faster once you hit a certain point in the game where you can just start running through main objectives, where the rounds in round-based zombies are just going to take longer, giving you just obviously diminished returns. But I'm going to give you some tips on how to spend your time most efficiently in Outbreak and to get those raw and flawless crystals. So in my opinion, Outbreak is really the mode you're going to want to focus on if you just want to absolutely smash through these crystals and get every single upgrade tree done with maximum capability. Now, the main trick into extracting the most amount of crystals out of Outbreak is being able to deal with the max difficulty and being able to just smash the main quest from that point on. You don't mess with anything else as soon as you transport and get done with the quest. You immediately go on, restock on whatever you missed, but keep going with those. So how do you exactly set that up? Of course, in your early game of Outbreak, you're going to be taking your time going through a lot of the buildings and doing side quests to get, properly set up, getting as many points as possible, getting your perks and all of your weapons. And whether you're playing solo or co-op, the recommended setup that I'm going to give you is roughly the same. What I will say in terms of co-op, good team composition is absolutely crucial. You're definitely going to want things like Ring of Fire and Ether Shroud. Having one player with Frenzied Guard is also not a bad idea in case everybody happens to go down. This is kind of used as like an anchor play, because if you all die, obviously the game is over. So you want somebody that's at least going to be your lifeline in case bad situations happen. And Frenzied Guard is surprisingly really good at preventing game overs. As far as weapon setups, when you're dealing with the max difficulty on Outbreak, you can kind of feel when the game starts to cap out a little bit, and all of the zombies are super sprinters. They're throwing an insane amount of special enemies at you. You're definitely going to want things like shotguns, so specifically I like the Howler, and then also a ray gun. However, you are going to want one teammate using a Ray K wonder weapon in order to slow zombies down in some of the objectives. For the most part, any objective where you're getting swarmed and need to hold out, for example, the ones where you have to stay in the building, the Ray K is absolutely key in doing that. To be honest, the Die Shockwave is really not that good. It's okay in early game, and if that's the first wonder weapon you get, of course hang on to it, but it's not something to take into the late game. As you can see in this gameplay, we were on difficulty 20, and I'm not sure exactly how long this game took us in terms of time played, but it was around 3 hours, I would like to think. And of course, that's a pretty significant chunk of time to put into a zombies game, and if you don't have that much time to go in, then perhaps play some traditional round-based. But if you have all the time in the world to kill, then I'm going to strongly recommend doing this, because we were coming out of these games with 40 plus refined crystals and around 25 to 30 flawless as well. At that point, it all depends on how many main objectives you get done after the max difficulty hits. Obtaining crystals is going to seem slower in the beginning as your Outbreak game begins to set up, until about like difficulty 4 to 5, maybe even up to 7. It's going to feel significantly slower than if you were just playing traditional round-based zombies. But I promise you, once you break past the difficulty 10 mark and then you get into a roll and you just keep smashing through these, it becomes way faster. Now, just like traditional round-based zombies, there is a point in the game where it kind of caps out and you're getting roughly diminished returns. And so what point in the game should you consider exfilling if you want to get a really solid amount of both refined and flawless crystals? Well, in my experience and in my opinion, if you have a lot of hours to dump into a singular zombies game, exfilling anywhere from difficulty 15 up to 25 is going to be the sweet spot before it gets like a little bit too dragged out. This way you may have almost enough refined and flawless crystals to completely upgrade at least your perk selection, if not other stuff as well. And I understand going to difficulty 15 or even just going past 10 up to 25 is going to be maybe out of reach for a lot of players who are new to zombies, and that is completely fair. You can go to like difficulty 5 or to 7 or maybe even push to 10, which isn't too hard if you're a relatively experienced player, and you're still going to be able to get crystals pretty fast that way. But again, at that point is where I strongly recommend you keep pushing forward, because your returns are going to be way accelerated than if you had just exfilled there. And speaking of exfilling, assuming that you get to a relatively high difficulty on Outbreak using these tips that I have given, then you're definitely going to want to end the game in an exfil rather than dying, because sometimes that'll just inevitably happen. But if you can exfil, I strongly recommend doing so. However, I understand that exfilling on a high difficulty is not the easiest thing in the world, so I have a couple tips to make that smoother too. Now, it's going to spawn you an ungodly amount of special enemies as soon as you try to exfil in your game, no matter what map you're on. And so there's better ways to deal with some individual ones than others. For example, the Tempests, which are really difficult to deal with, are weak to the Brain Rot ammo mod. They're going to take increased damage from any bullet weapon that happens to have it on, so maybe a shotgun like a Howler or a Gallo with Brain Rot is going to do insane amounts of damage to Tempest. Now, when it comes to Panzers and heavy zombies, anything armored is going to be weak to Shatter Blast, and it's extremely effective against that. Megatons are weak to Deadwire and also Cryo Freeze, and then Plaguehounds are weak to Blast Furnace. When you have a good team composition with pretty much somebody with all of these ammo mods and being able to use them effectively, you should be able to take out mini bosses with not many problems at all. Of course, using special equipment like chopper gunners and even death machines are always a very solid call. Elemental Pop is actually a really good perk to use in Outbreak. I don't always recommend it in regular round-based zombies, but in this mode, and especially if you're exfilling, I am going to recommend every player on your team have it, unless it's not just you. Having a good variety and composition and taking full advantage of all of the wonder weapons is also super key in exfilling properly. But if you do a few games of exfilling from round 10, up to 20 or 25, you should be getting an insane amount of crystals, and the efficiency is also pretty high depending on how quickly you can get these objectives done. If you don't mess around too much. In my opinion, doing a few games of this is easily the most efficient way to pull yourself a lot of refined and flawless crystals, and is probably the best way to go about upgrading your entire upgrade skill tree. So anyways, guys, that is going to be it for the video today. If you did enjoy, make sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and I also stream zombies almost every day over on Twitch. I'm going to be streaming tonight. Link to that is in the description. I would love to see you over there and come say hi. Thank you all for watching once again, and I'll see you all on the next stream or the next video. Take it easy. I gotta go, and peace out.